Glad to have you tonight. Listen, this is Tuesday Spark. It's about words of information, words of inspiration, and words of insight that may spark something in your mind. Listen, I am not trying to tell you what to think. I am just trying to get you to think. Remember, words are powerful. It only takes a spark in order to start a fire. So let's spark it up. Listen, this year our theme is keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. In spite of all the things that are happening around us or behind us, we got to keep moving forward. Listen, The Village, we meet every Sunday live on Facebook, on YouTube, and my Facebook page as well. Just tune in at 9 o'clock. Now, get up when the service is fresh and it's live and it's real. But in case you miss it, it's pre-recorded. It comes back to you. You can watch it again. That's 9 a.m. sharp. Instagram, YouTube, Facebook pages, you can catch it. Also on Wednesday at 6:15 in the morning is our prayer on Wednesday. We've been praying, I think now for over 5 years. You may want your name or a friend's name on the prayer list. You can go to our website, tuesdaydc.church, and give us your name, and we'll make sure that you put on the prayer list. That's every Wednesday, 6:15. It's only 15 minutes, so join us. Our word on Wednesday will begin on February the 3rd. We'll be tackling the book of Esther, looking at Queen Esther and looking at Vashti and these wonderful women. The only book in the Bible that does not mention the name of God, but it doesn't mean that God is not all in it. So tune in, mark your calendar for February the 3rd. That's our word on Wednesday. This is our spring teaching series. And our classes, there's only 30 minutes each, so you got to get in there. It's power-packed. We don't want to miss it. We also will start our 21-day Daniel fast on February the 22nd. That's like the first full week of the Lenten season. And it will end at midnight on March the 15th. So you got time to get your refrigerator together, get yourself together, mentally prepared. I'm going to do the same thing too, and Lord knows I need a Daniel fast for my spirit, my mind, but also for my body. So think about that with me. We're going to pray. We're going to be fasting. We're going to do meditation. And so we want you to be a part of that with us. Again, I want to thank all those who are supporting the village, our friends and family members and people who are just well wishers. Thank you so much for your financial support, for your prayers. East River Family Strength Collaborative, and especially Executive Director Ms. May Best for her wonderful support and all the wonderful partners that we have and friends. I just want to thank you all for consistently giving, whether you're tithing or just giving an offering. No amount is too small or too large. You can always give through Givelify, through Cash App. Go to our website, tuesdaydc.church, and you can make a contribution. Remember, it's tax deductible. Thank you again for giving. And listen, the ministry is about touching lives, not about brick and mortar. The village is in the business of touching lives. That's the ministry, and it continues to be done because of you. Thank you. Well, tonight I want to talk about an interesting subject, hopefully for all of us, because you have, perhaps some of you have children, or you have godchildren, or you have nieces and nephews, or perhaps in school. So the question is, I want to talk about who's teaching your children? Who's teaching your children? You know, if you are a parent and you have a child or children, you know what? You are your child or your children's first teacher. Yes, you. Maybe you're not aware of that, but you are their primary teacher. But yet and still, we all, at some point, send our kids off to some school. And a lot of us send our kids, and you probably do the same thing, off to a public school, maybe a private school. But you send them off, and you send them because you want them to get, quote unquote, educated. So who's teaching your children? You ever thought about who's teaching your children? Who's in front of them for 6 or 7 hours a day, imparting what's supposed to be education, but also their biases, also where they come from in terms of their own sort of social, economic thinkings. And do you ever think about who's teaching your children? So who is the average teacher, particularly in public schools in the United States? According to a newly updated federal data that shines a light on teachers' demographics and salaries and their perceptions, and evaluations, and professional development, the average public school teacher in America is a 43-year-old white woman with nearly 2 decades and a half of teaching experience. Think about that. So this is the average teacher is a 43-year-old white woman with nearly a decade and a half of teaching experience. Now, I'm not saying that this white woman may not be a good teacher or may not even have a good heart, but think about that the average. And also, it is estimated that 80% of public school teachers are white. 80%. Think about that. Let that sink in. 9.3% are Hispanic, and only 7% are black, and only 2% are Asian. That's in public schools across this nation. So as your child's first teacher, what are you teaching them about who they are when they are going into this classroom with this person in front of them that doesn't look like them? Sometimes it's not just the look, but they don't know who they are. They're not sensitive to their culture or their history or anything about them. So as a parent, I know you want to raise children who are smart and focused, and especially in a world where there's such digital distractions seem to be inescapable. I can't even imagine growing up in my time with so much distraction with cell phones that are like mini computers and iPads and computers throughout the house. It's not even just the television anymore. It's so many distractions. When I grew up, I think we had one television. Well, we ended up having two. There was one in my parents' bedroom, and then there was one in the family room. That was it. Everybody didn't have a TV in their phone, and we only had one phone in the house. One phone, can you imagine? So there wasn't a phone hookup in every room, and of course at that time there were really no cell phones. So as your child's first teacher, what are you teaching them about who they are? As a parent, I know you want just to raise these incredible children. So what is your strategy for teaching your child or your children? Some people don't even think about this. They think I just pop them out and I take them around, but you have no strategy for what you want to impart in them. What about technology? Their cultural history, their faith, whatever their faith is, what about it? Even tech titans like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates have strategies for limiting their children's screen time. Think about that. These are the persons who are really responsible for a lot of the technology that we experience now. Steve Jobs with Apple and Bill Gates with Microsoft. But they have strategies for limiting, listen to that, limiting their children's screen time. Why? Because in the future, there will be two kinds of people in the world. Those who let their attention and be controlled and coerced by others outside of themselves, or those who call themselves indistractable. That means they can't be distracted by what they see on Netflix or what they see on Twitter or Facebook, because a lot of stuff that we have experienced this past year, and particularly leading up to the election with QAnon, which is a group that just spews out basically lies. But, they have these theories, and we've heard conspiracy theories all of our lives, but that's what they are, theories. Sometimes not based at all in any truth at all. And you can get distracted. So if you limit the time that your children spend in front of a screen, they will develop this sense of being indistractable. You won't be able to just tell them anything because it's on Netflix. So becoming indistractable is the most important skill for the 21st century. It is one that many parents fail to teach their children. And I would like to take this word indistractable because I don't even know yet if it's in the dictionary, but it's being discriminating about the information you get. So you teach your children how to think critically about everything they see, read, or hear. How many of us go, or you go to the barber shop like me, or you go to the beauty salon, or you go to your nail salon or esthetician, you go to get stuff done, right? You have conversations. I love barbershop conversations because they can be all over the place. But a lot of people in those barbershops and beauty salons don't know the hell what they're talking about. They're just talking. You run out of the barbershop or the beauty salon half-cocked with some information you just received from a conversation, and you don't even have enough sense to say, let me go and check this out. Let me think critically about what I just heard. That's what indistractable means, that you just won't run with something because somebody has said. I don't care if it's the President of the United States, and we know about that already. There was an article written in Education Week, and it was entitled, "Dear White Teachers, You Can't Love Black Students If You Don't Know Them." Let me say that again. It said, "Dear white teachers, you can't love black students if you don't know them." So Bettina L. Love is the Associate Professor of Educational Theory and Practice at the University of Georgia. She's the author of the most recently book entitled We Want to Do More Than Survive, Abolitionist Teaching and the Pursuit of Educational Freedom. And she wrote in this book, she said, for Black and brown children in the United States, a major part of their schooling experience is associated with white female teachers who have no understanding of their culture. See, I made a point when my son and my daughter was in school, but particularly my son, because he's a Black boy. I'll always meet their teachers. I wasn't trying to be intimidating, but I would let them know that I was watching them. I would ask them questions like, where are you from? Because if they told me they were from Iowa or from Kansas or from Idaho or somewhere else, maybe even in Georgia, I want to know, had they had any experiences with urban children? Had they been out of that environment? Had they traveled? Because they're dealing with children in that class of different cultures and experience, and particularly Black children. A lot of times we are devalued for who we are. Our culture and who we are is not, it's not on par with white culture. That's what some people think. So most white teachers, they love to say, I love all children. We hear it all the time. And the word all is meant to signal I'm not a racist. I'm fit to be in the classroom with children of color. This statement is used to show that the white teachers can be kind to every Black and brown child that walks through their classroom. But it's not enough to be kind. You got to be an advocate for that child. You got to love that child. But how can you love or care for someone you know so little about? And then the author went on, Bettina Love went on to say, she said, I don't think that white teachers enter the profession wanting to harm children of color, but they will hurt a child whose culture is viewed as an afterthought. And that's what happens a lot of times, is you don't understand the culture of the people that you're dealing with, and also the different learning styles. All kids don't sit in the chair nice and straight. Some of them may be on the floor, but they can still learn. See, the thing is, a lot of our education is about this sort of military principle that everybody steps in line at the same time. And that is so far from how education really should happen. Teachers who disregard the impact of racism on Black children's schooling experiences, resources and communities, and parent interaction will do harm to children of color. This ignorance is not just a painful sign of blatant information or blatant lack of information, but it's a function of racism, is to erase our history and the contributions of people of color. And it's not just about a history of slavery. No, we had a history before we got to this place, before 1619. And nor should we start history of the United States at 1776 as if the years between 1619 and 1776 didn't exist. No, that's a part of American history too. And so it's a dangerous situation for these teachers to go on to take jobs in schools filled with Black and brown children and not understand who they are. This turns schools into places that mirror society instead of improving it. The hard truth is that racism functions as a super predator and super spreader, I would say, and super predator of Black and brown children within our schools. That's why we got the prison pipeline thing, because they don't believe in our children and they put them in the system. Jawanza Kunjufu, who's written a lot about this over 40 years, he said the reason he discovered that the teachers are not successful in closing the educational gap with Black children is that they have low expectations for Black children. You got to believe that Black children can achieve and that they're smart, that they're intelligent, and always tell them that they are geniuses. They don't bond with their children. You can't bond with somebody you don't like and somebody you really don't love. You don't try to understand. And then there's the Eurocentric curriculum, a curriculum that's based on this white supremacy model that everything the whites have done is golden and wonderful and that they are superior. That has to change. And then fourthly, poor classroom management skills. So the question is not, do you love Black children? The question is, will you fight for justice for Black and brown children? How will you fight? I argue that you must fight with the creativity. This is what this author says, and the imagination and urgency and boldness and ingenuity and rebellious spirit of the abolitionists to advocate for an educational system where all children, Black and brown children, are thriving. And she calls this abolitionist teaching. It is absolutely phenomenal. To love all children, we must struggle together to create schools that teach that we are wonderful, all of us, and teach that we believe in the impossible being done. Schools are built, or should be built, on justice, love, equity, joy, and anti-racism. So I ask you the question again, parents. Who's teaching your children? Have a good evening. This is Dr. Tait. Thank you for joining with Tuesday Spark. God bless.